Prepare for the loading screen that will be your mind exploding from amazing gaming news. Are you expecting this? I bet you're not. Oh, let's do this.
Welcome to Respawn TV. I am your host, Devin Van Zant, and this is your source for gaming and tech news. Let's start things off with this week's up-and-coming releases. You can look forward to seeing these titles and many more released throughout the month on your favorite platforms. This week's releases are Atari Flashback Classics Volume 1 for the Xbox One and PS4, October 4th. Atari Flashback Classics Volume 2 for the Xbox One and PS4, also October 4th. Warhammer The End Times Vermintide for Xbox One and PS4, October 4th. Wheels of Aurelia for Xbox One, PS4, and Wii U, October 4th. Slain Back from Hell, Xbox One, October 5th. Mafia 3 for the Xbox One, PS4, and PC, October 7th. And Paper Mario Color Splash for the Wii U, October 7th. Keep tuned in each week to get news on up-and-coming release dates for new and exciting games. Now let's throw it over to Mackenzie Doherty with Fresh from the Steamer.
Hey guys, it's Mackenzie Doherty and welcome back to Fresh from the Steamer. Today we are looking at Ping Pong Waves 11 VR, which released on September 22nd. Now this is virtual reality ping pong. You can play in single and multiplayer for a 1v1 regulation match, or take the Waves Challenge and face servers of all difficulty to rack up points for the accuracy of returns. Now, the details of regulation ping pong were closely adhered to, which basically means that the creators of this game closely followed what actually happens during regular ping pong. That includes how the ball moves when it's hit and how the player actually hits the ball. Basically, real-life ping pong physics are the same as in the game. Now this game is similar to Pool Nations VR, which was released back on June 1st, especially in the way that the game looks and the actual feel of it. Now this game has a realistic yet an unrealistic feeling to it that it is a virtual reality game, so it does have that feeling of realism to it, but it has an unrealistic feeling to it because for one, the player can't see their opponents and they can't even see their own body. The player can also look behind them in the room, which I love about VR games because it helps with immersing the player in the game and making it feel even more realistic. Now, it does seem disorienting watching and playing the actual game, but it's the same with real-life ping pong. It's fast-paced and you're keeping your eye on a tiny white ball that moves at a high velocity. It does mimic the actual game of ping pong real well in how the ball moves and the actual pace of the game. This is actually one of the best VR ping pong games out there as of now. Waves is when the player is getting balls hit at them, and they have to return them until they mess up. Now Waves is an awesome style of playing because several paddles show up on the screen at the same time, so the player has a general idea of where the ball is going to come from, and the player does have a certain amount of times they can miss before the round is actually over. And in single player mode, the player can choose between Legendary, World Class, Professional, Semi-Pro, and Amateur for the difficulty levels. Whichever difficulty level is chosen will determine how aggressive the AI plays against the player. Now there is a huge bucket of balls to choose from when it is the player's turn to serve, which is kind of funny because since it is a computer game, you would expect an unlimited number of balls, and it just kind of visualizes it for you. And when serving, the ball has to be bounced on the server side of the table in order for the AI to even respond to the serve. And every time the ball is hit, the player does feel a little vibration from their controller as if they are actually hitting the ball. When it is the AI's turn to serve, the player can't actually see the ball until it is coming to them, which is kind of weird, but it also keeps the player on their toes, so they have to be prepared. This game is definitely for people who love ping pong, or even for people who love virtual reality. Having a game as simple as ping pong for the VR with graphics that look this good make for some higher expectations from VR users. Tune in next week. This is Mackenzie Doherty, and now back to Respawn TV.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Uber has been doing research on a new type of transportation, a vertical takeoff ride that flies you around. This fast-growing ride-sharing company is looking into offering its customers short-haul flying in cities. This new technology is called VTOL, which stands for Vertical Takeoff and Landing. VTOL is an aircraft that can hover, take off, and land vertically, which is relatively similar to a helicopter, but unlike the typical helicopter, these planes have multiple rotors, fixed wings, and perhaps eventually could use batteries to fly more silently. And in time, like cars, this aircraft will become autonomous. Uber is hoping to get things rolling with VTOL within the next decade, give or take, because of certain limitations on airspace in populated areas. Most of the development for vertical takeoff and landing so far has been done by the military. Development for VTOL hasn't yet begun, but it's a pretty neat idea. We'll continue after some commercials, but first here is New Game Plus by Trevor Watson.
But then there was fire. And with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark.
Hello Respawners, I'm Trevor Watson and you're watching New Game Plus, where I take you through games that I've played in my childhood. This week's game is from the franchise that gave you the hardest games in existence, Dark Souls. This game was developed by From Software and published by Namco Bandai in October of 2011. Dark Souls is an open-world RPG where you play as an undead, those of humanity cursed to never die, but to hollow and go insane. In this game, you'll fight against many of your own kind, as well as humans and similar beings from the age before yours. Your in-game currency and your in-game experience are linked. They are the souls that you collect from defeated enemies. Spend these souls on items and upgrades, or to level up and boost your stats, which can be a tough decision depending on the situation. The main boss of this game is Lord Gwyn, a being hailed as a god amongst the Age of Fire. He took on ancient dragons and built a large civilization, but man's age, the Age of Dark, was coming next. Fearful of his people dying out, he defied fate itself and linked his soul to a great fire, twisting the natural path of the world and cursing humanity, the children who never got their rightful age of darkness. This tells a tale that is very different from most games. Human beings are the dark ones, and the light will always try to smother us out, fearful of the end. But the world is supposed to be inherited by us dark beings, so we will continue to push forward until the world falls to darkness. Most of this game's story isn't even present in the actual gameplay. Instead, all the lore was pieced together by the fans through reading flavor text on every in-game item, and this tradition has carried on into the 2 sequels and the spin-off series Bloodborne. Now, besides your money and experience being the same thing, this game has hard bosses and groups of enemies that will gang up on you. And, since you have a stamina bar, you can only dodge, block, and attack so much before your character gets tired, so don't get caught out for too long, or you're going to die. A lot. I hope you don't lose your minds playing this game. It's okay if you never beat it. If it's any consolation, I didn't make it that far, but I would still recommend trying it to anyone. This has been New Game Plus. I'm Trevor Watson, and you're watching Respawn TV.
Welcome back to Respawn TV. I'm your host, Devin Van Zant, and you just saw Trevor's pack, New Game Plus. The PlayStation Vita doesn't receive a lot of the love that it deserves. While Sony seems to have just given up on it, we still have a few companies such as Bandai Namco Entertainment, Idea Factory International, NIS America, and Xseed bringing us content for the system. That being said, some of the titles can be hit or miss, and MayQ Labyrinth of Death is no exception. The game was developed by Idea Factory and Compile Heart, the duo known for bringing us the Hyperdimension Neptunia franchise, along with its various spin-offs. With this dungeon crawling gameplay and RPG aspects, one has to wonder, will it make for a good game? When most of us think that a dungeon crawler games, we expect a rather straightforward first or third person perspective in the game. But with MayQ Labyrinth of Death, we get a turn-based RPG style game similar to classics like Dragon Quest games, only with more dynamic camera angles. The attacking is done in phases as the game alternates between the protagonists and their enemy. In its own right, it's not a bad thing, but it's also nothing spectacular. Its premise is not as unique as expected. The world has fallen under darkness due to a curse that can only be broken by having a hero, or in this case heroine, go on an adventure that will involve interesting trials. This is not limited to performing various rituals and using mecha-like guardians and magical stones to recreate the world as it was before the tragedy began. There is a catch, however. The only ones who can save the world are ones who can control and perform Machina. So we are introduced to 5 young women who have unique versions of Machina that makes each one of them important in this adventure to save the world. The game was released in the US this fall, so if you're interested in dungeon crawlers, RPGs, or just keeping the PS Vita alive, go ahead and check it out. Up next, here's my pack, Played by Ear. What's up, guys? I'm your host, Devin Van Zant, and welcome to Played by Ear, the show where we take a look at the oft-overlooked component of video games, the soundtrack. Even in the early days of gaming, music was important. Mario knew it, Zelda knew it, Mega Man knew the crap out of it, but we've already talked about that. This week I want to talk about a game that puts its music on high priority. A game that dared to dream. A game that has a very good soundtrack. This week, we're talking about Secret of Mana. Secret of Mana is a top-down 2D non-turn-based RPG by Square Enix. Technically, it's the second Mana game. You might recognize the first if I called it Final Fantasy Adventure or Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. There's a lot to be said about the development of this game, its influential role in RPG strategy games, and the origin of the Mana games, but we're here strictly to talk about the in-game music. The game hits you with a surprise right off of the bat. Instead of the traditional ping noise that indicated the launching of most Super Nintendo games, Secret of Mana begins with Whale Song. From the very beginning, this sets the game apart. Hiroki Kikuta, the game's composer, chose to implement this soundbite so that the game would immediately begin to deeply connect with the player. Fans of subtlety might notice that the game's title music actually syncs up with the title screen as well, which was rare at the time. I could talk for hours about the music of Secret of Mana. After hearing the soundtrack all the way through just once, I purchased it. It was that gripping, that soothing, that real. Kikuta spent nearly every minute of his life recording and composing for this game. He recorded his own SNES-compatible sound samples so he would know exactly what the finished project would sound like. He slept in his office, spending nearly 24 hours there, syncing music to game events and tweaking every song until he could create what he considered to be a three-dimensional experience. And it shows. The boss themes genuinely instill panic and urgency. The dungeon themes are haunting and creepy. The overworld themes give the listener a real sense of adventure and wanderlust, and the town and tavern themes create a cozy, inviting break to the harsh world of adventure. I give Secret of Mana a 10 out of 10 for its soundtrack. Regardless of how you feel about any other aspect of the game, you cannot deny its unique musical style or the effort that went into maximizing the SNES's capabilities to create a rich, fantastical environment. And now that I'm done gushing, I'll get out of the way and let the clips do the talking. wraps up our first segment. Please stay tuned for Project Delta. Respawn TV and Delta air each week, Monday through Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. And you can watch our content online at facebook.com/respawn8 and on YouTube by searching Respawn TV. Now it's time for a quick commercial break. Please stay tuned for more Respawn TV. Hello and welcome to another episode of Project Delta. I'm your host, Evan Van Zant, and with us we have our friend, Steven Spire.
Hello.
What are we playing this week, Steven?
We are playing Xenoblade Chronicles X for the Wii U.
Another classic Wii U recommendation from Steven Spire, our resident Wii U expert.
Only because I have one. I'm the only one of us that actually has one, so that makes me an expert.
Well, you know, that's how it works around here. So what is this game about?
This game is about basically you are the last bit of humanity that is left. We got wind that an alien race was coming to destroy us all, and so every country made a bunch of spaceships to try and go out, and the Earth got destroyed. There was nothing that we could do to actually save it. We tried to, but it got destroyed anyways. But then they actually came after us in space, and so we actually wound up crash landing onto this planet, and now we actually have to try and basically rebuild society from scratch on an alien planet that is incredibly hostile towards us just because we're foreign.
Of course. I'm refraining from any political jokes. So, what's the combat in this game like?
It's active time, as you can see you can lock on to an enemy to actually start the fight, and then you have different skills depending on what kind of weapon you equip. You'll always have a melee weapon and then a long-range weapon to go along with it, and then you'll get free stuff afterwards.
Free stuff is the best kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I guess it's not free. I mean, you do have to fight the enemies in order to get it. But later on in the game, you can actually get these giant mechs called skells. They're actually a lot of fun to go around because you just feel absolutely invincible in these things. And then later on, you can actually transform them into a vehicle mode to actually traverse the land faster. And later on, you can actually enable them to fly like this, allowing you to get to a bunch of different areas that you won't be able to get through via just normal jumping, even though you can jump higher than Michael Jordan in this game.
That's pretty darn high.
Yeah. The good news is that there is absolutely no fall damage, which is very beneficial because I've fallen like a lot and actually have used the no fall damage to my advantage to actually be able to get out of situations because just because you're in an area where enemies you can defeat, that doesn't mean the high level enemy won't just come over and just wipe out your entire team in a single blow. Because your level cap is 60, but the enemies can get up to level 99.
Which is fair.
Yeah, but you can actually get stronger. And you see this guy with the purple over his head?
Uh-huh.
That means that he's a tyrant, which means that he's actually a lot more powerful than regular species of his kind. Although not this one, because he's only at level 11. I've actually made myself pretty powerful, but you can actually get a lot stronger depending on your build. Oh, look at that. This game's so beautiful.
That's super pretty.
Yes, it is.
I love this. I am already in love with like the visuals in this game. It's crazy pretty, and the day-night cycle is super awesome. The lighting's super cool, which just I think adds to this idea that I have that the Wii U is like super underrated as a console, even by Nintendo, I think.
Yeah, they're already trying to come out with the NX, which is supposed to replace the Wii U.
Which I have actually heard very good things about the NX. Apparently, game designers love it. So maybe
Hasn't
even
been
prettier
released
games.
yet. Well, we
So.
can only hope. But there's a lot of different alien creatures on this planet, like this gigantic thing right here. You can actually fight it too, but some of the enemies are actually peaceful. They won't attack you unless you attack them or you get like incredibly close to them.
It's kind of the way I am. Yeah. Just don't get too close to me.
This game actually does have some online multiplayer stuff, but it's only for certain quests, certain online quests. But that's actually how I made some of my friends on my Wii U, is actually doing quests with other people online. So it's got a bit of a community to it, which is nice.
A little bit of that social aspect. It's fun to make friends.
And the more quests that you complete, the closer you get to being able to take on what is called the Global Nemesis, which is an incredibly powerful monster that everybody in the world can fight all at once. And you have to try and take its HP down to 0. The only problem is that it's got a lot of HP, like in the millions. And that's just its HP bars. Each one of those has its own number.
Goodness.
You know, that's why it's called the Global Nemesis, because if you tried to fight that thing by yourself, it would take way too long. That was kind of neat of them to actually implement something into a game that forcibly tries to bring people together.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of not even close to the same thing, but just a little bit of like Battlefield 1943, where they would release maps based on the global number of kills in multiplayer. It's one of those things. It's kind of nice to unite people under one banner, just to like keep playing the game.
Another thing that's kind of neat about this game is that some of the tyrants actually have special conditions, like you have to defeat all the enemies in a certain area, or it has to be a certain time of day, because certain enemies will actually only appear like when it's night or when it's day, or when it's actually between a specific amount of time during night or day, which will always give you something new to do to try and defeat them all. Because if you, some of them will drop holograms, and that's actually something that I'm doing. I'm just trying to collect all the holograms that I can. I've got the majority of them. I'm only missing a few left, but the rest of them are from like really powerful tyrants that I'm still not ready to even take on. Even with these custom scales that I've actually made really strong to actually be able to take on most tyrants, there's still a few that I still can't beat. I've put almost 500 hours into this game, and I still have more stuff to do. It is a very long game. So if you like long RPGs, then this is a good game for you to actually get invested into.
That's something that I like. I don't buy a lot of games, so when I buy a game, I want it to last a really long time. And goodness, 500 hours, that is a very long time. That is well worth the money, I would say.
And I still have more stuff to do as well. I do love that if you do like the look of a certain piece of armor, but you have something stronger, you can actually equip it into what's called your fashion gear, which means that your outer appearance will remain, how you want, but you can still get the defense and the boosts that you actually need in order to actually be able to play the game without getting completely stomped on.
I like that. I like the customization there. Well, this has been Xenoblade Chronicles X. Be sure to check out Project Delta Monday through Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. Don't get stepped on by giant things. That was anticlimactic. So thanks for joining us. Go check out Xenoblade Chronicles X. It's a really long, really big, really pretty game. Go check out the Wii U. It's a very underrated console. So thanks for joining us, and join us next week for another awesome game.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.